Welcome to the original and the best Power Hour with Alex Burr and Dylan Hughes, members and podcast of the Running Book Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Alex and Dylan Basketball Power Hour. You are going to be hearing a lot from the two of us the next 2 weeks. We are going to have 4 podcasts come out the next 2 weeks, Dylan Hughes. Are you excited for all these awards pods we have coming up?
Yes. This is like the culmination of all the pods. Like, we've been watching basketball to prepare for this. So this is where we get to really shine, I think.
So we're doing all rookie today. We're going to be doing all defense and all NBA next week. And then we're wrapping up our big picture analysis tomorrow with the Grizzlies, the Raptors, and the Heat. And we're probably going to be going Raptors, Heat, and Grizzlies if I have to know the two of us. But Dylan Hughes, in the tradition of throwing curveballs, when you expect a fastball, we did talk about baseball before the pod, so this actually kind of feels apt today. 2 years ago today was the Kawhi Leonard shot. My question for you is, what is the moment that you had your heart ripped out, like 76ers fans had their heart ripped out by the Kawhi Leonard shot?
Oh, this is easy, man. I think it was the first Eastern Conference Finals, and Paul George just hit an awesome three. Man, was it Game 7? It was late in the series. Paul George hits a late three, and that was like the coming out party. That was like, this kid's here. Even LeBron like kind of tapped him on the back, like, yeah, like, I recognize you. And then fucking LeBron, Frank Vogel takes Roy Hibbert out. LeBron goes straight to the hole with an easy layup to take the lead. And I was like, yeah, this is what being a Pacers fan is like.
I'm looking up the exact date of that. It's game 1. That was game 1 of that series. So
okay.
You were off to a rollicking start in that series, Dylan Hughes.
Yeah.
For me,
that one set the tone right there.
For me, it wasn't a game so much as the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals. And Derrick Rose, who was by far my favorite player that year, got absolutely eaten alive by LeBron. Like, this was prime LeBron, right? Like, I would say 2011 was probably the peak of LeBron's powers, like, as an athlete. Like, maybe 2012, 2013. But when he was in Miami was peak physical LeBron. And Derrick Rose, we won game 1, and then they swept us the rest of the way. And I was heartbroken because I thought we were going to the finals. I felt vindication after the Mavs beat them, but I was not very happy that year, Dylan Hughes.
Yeah, man. LeBron he's ruined all of our lives. I think that's safe to say.
Raptors fans, Hawks fans, Bulls fans, Cavs fans twice. All the Eastern Conference teams basically have had LeBron problems for the last 20 years. And Dylan, let's just be real here. You were glad when he left the conference.
Oh God, yeah. And as a noted Lakers hater, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'd rather the Lakers win every year than have this dude just dominate the conference.
Of course, like, and we thought it was going to be harder for him, but alas, he had a pretty easy road to the finals last year. I mean, they made it easy, but still. I'd say we should touch on the Oladipo thing. I know we're doing the Heat tomorrow, but let's just go ahead and touch on it now. He's going to have surgery on his, I believe on his knee, and he's going to miss the rest of the season. I mean, Dylan, like, what the fuck happened to Victor Oladipo?
I don't know if he completely recovered from that injury last year. It's like, I don't know. He's just been odd this year. He's had good games, but you could see the explosiveness wasn't there. And it's going to be really interesting moving forward because he got an extension offer from the Pacers and said no. And all of a sudden, as we were talking about pre-pod, I don't see how the Heat give him anything more than a 1-year deal because we don't know what the hell he is. And I don't think that 1-year deal is going to be that much either. Like, it could be could be like a 20 mil type of thing, but he's not cashing out on this deal. So, I mean, I wish the best for him, and it kind of sucks that he wasn't able to help this Heat team, because I really like this Heat team late in the season, and it would have been nice to see him there. But it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here.
So he played 75 games his All-NBA year in 2018. Would you like to guess how many games he's played total since then?
Oh, wow. Maybe like 40.
Okay, not that few. He has played 88 games in the last 3 seasons.
Oh, it's been 3. Yeah, I was thinking the past 2.
Okay, that makes more sense. But he played 55 games between the 2 previous seasons before this one. And he played 33 games this year. And I mean, I'm not going to say he's done, right? Like, there's still something there. He's got skill. But his game was so predicated on just being faster than you and being more explosive than you. And he really hasn't adapted. And you brought up him coming back too early. I mean, it's contract year. I mean, you don't think his agent maybe had something to do with that? Like, hey, you need to come back. You need to come and prove you have what it takes. And, some guys, maybe just the rest will never wear off. I hope that it does, because I don't want to hate on Vic. I think he's one of the most fun players in the league, but I really just need to see it before I believe it. And I don't even know if he's going to get 20 million next year. He might get 15 if he's lucky. I think that they have a really interesting situation coming up. But Dylan, I think are we good to move on to the all rookie team?
I have a breaking news from the NFL real quick. With the Aaron Rodgers controversy, the Packers have made a statement. They've signed Blake Bortles. I mean, if that's not a sign of things to come, I don't know what is.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's Super Bowl champion Blake Bortles right there. So, or was he on the Rams last year? I don't remember.
I don't know what the hell happened.
Oh,
but hey, the 2018 Jaguars, man, like, who's the worst quarterback that could have won them the Super Bowl? Because Blake Bortles was almost it.
Do you think Eli Manning could have won them a Super Bowl that year?
Maybe. That's close.
I mean, we're going real bottom of the barrel here. God.
Drew Lock?
I mean, Drew Lock was, I'm pretty sure, in college at that point.
Well, still. He was probably better than Blake Bortles.
I mean, to be fair, you could probably get... Okay, here's a question. That year, I believe, was Mitch Trubisky's rookie year.
Ooh.
Mitch Trubisky or Blake Bortles?
I still believe in Mitch Trubisky. This may be a hot take, but the guy can throw the football, man. Like, he makes a ton of mistakes. I'm not going to doubt that. But he has some good games. I don't know. I could see in a better situation, I could see him being decent.
So we got 12 games, 2,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for Ole Mitch on 59% completion percentage.
Ooh,
I mean, that was his rookie year. So, yeah. And plus, here's one. Mike Glennon. Do you think they would have won with Mike Glennon over Blake Bortles?
Could Glennon do it for him? Man. I'm going to say no on that one. What about Dan Orlovsky?
I think he was done in 2015. I would say no. How about 50-year-old Kerry Collins? a Colts legend. Let's go to a different sport. Could Jamie Moyer have won the Super Bowl?
Hey, what about baseball pitchers? Should we throw some baseball pitchers in there?
You think Clayton Kershaw would have won the Super Bowl?
No. He chokes when it matters. Madison Bumgarner, he could do it though.
He's tall and he's got a cannon, so maybe.
Exactly.
Oh, wait.
You just need one deep throw.
I think we're doing this run though. It had to be center fielders because they got arms.
Tatis Jr., could he do it?
Here's one. Could 45-year-old Ichiro have done it?
Oh man,
he's small. He'd be like a Russell Wilson kind of quarterback, but he'd have the same kind of mobility.
He's got the mentality. That's what you really need.
He's got a cannon. He threw a baseball that was 10 feet off the ground to third base from right field, a dart like 200 feet. That's pretty impressive for a baseball. I think, if you taught Ichiro, I mean, these guys are all elite athletes. I'm pretty sure if you taught them all how to throw a football, they would become elite at it. But if you taught Ichiro how to throw a football, I think he would become a problem.
Yeah, man. I think baseball players are underrated because we don't really look at them as athletes because a lot of their job is standing around. But some of those guys, man, I think they can make a transition.
Here's last one. Vladimir Guerrero. He'd be a pocket quarterback.
God, that dude would truck people.
I don't think Vlad was that tall. Or I'm on Pro Football Reference. Let me look up Vladimir Guerrero. I don't think he was that tall, but he was a tank.
Yeah.
And he had a cannon. He was 6'3", 235. Okay, that's pocket quarterback for sure, but
he would be plowing over dudes.
Pocket quarterback for sure. I don't know how well he could have moved. I guess he was an outfielder, but
I could see him as a Ben Roethlisberger where he's not really a good runner. It's just impossible to tackle him.
I think the dimensions are just about the same. So this was a wild tangent, Dylan. This is.
You're welcome.
Just to give our listeners a little bit of context, this is what our pre-shows are like. We just go all over the fucking place. It's wonderful. It's wonderful conversations. It's really the highlight of my week. Just to go all over the fucking place with Dylan Hughes. So let's move on to the matter at hand, shall we? The all rookie teams. And basically the format for this is pretty straightforward. You just list your 10 best rookies. It's basically 1 through 10. 1 through 5 is your first team. 6 through 10 is your second team. I mean, Dylan, it's safe to say this is probably the most straightforward award you could vote on in award season.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. And the rookies are a little bit interesting. I was having some trouble kind of ranking them because there's a ton of different situations, right? You got rookies on good teams doing less work. You've got rookies on bad teams doing more work. And you kind of got to balance what you value the most. So it's a little bit different than something like MVP where the situations are fairly similar. But of course, as we discussed last week with MVP, there's going to be some contenders this year that aren't on the best teams. So that's a little bit different. But, it's it's definitely I would say it's pretty straightforward, but there's a little bit of variance in it for sure.
Wait, Dylan Hughes, are you telling me I should take Lou Dort off my MVP ballot? Is that what you're telling me?
That's an interesting case because the Thunder have been so awful. If you take Lou Dort off, how much worse could they get? I mean, I don't know.
The Thunder have been catastrophically bad. And if Poku had played more.
Oh, here we go.
he might have been on the rookie team. I'll say might. I'm not going to say would have been. So, okay, I don't know what you're doing, Dylan, but just for my own clarity, I'm making for all these awards a 48 game minimum. You have to have played 48 games to be on any of my ballots. And I would have stretched the rules for LaMelo if he had stayed hurt, I'll say. But that's because he's the exception, not the rule. So basically all my all NBA teams, all my all defense teams, rookie teams, you had to have played 48 games to make my list. Because I think it's 2/3 of the season, Dylan. It's a representative sample size of it's basically the equivalent of playing 55 games in a normal year. And that seems like a reasonable cutoff to me. I don't know if you did the same thing, but do you agree that's a reasonable cutoff for me?
Yeah. And I would personally go a little bit higher. And that's kind of how I did it. But 48 would be the baseline. Yeah.
Because there are some all NBA guys Joel Embiid, I think just passed 48 games. He'll be at 50 or something like that. Right. This year is just a weird year. So I would probably in a normal year, I'd like my guys to play 60 games. This year, that's not really tenable. Right. With all the injuries and tomfoolery.
The shrunk schedule. Yeah. It's a little bit different for sure.
So I'm being a little more lenient than I would be, but I don't mind you having, even a tighter thing than I do, because it's completely reasonable to want your guys to on your ballot to be represented. Any other strict criteria you had before we get onto our all rookie teams?
I mean, there was nothing strict, but I definitely punish you if you're not playing that much, if the more you play, the better. That's just how I usually look at it.
I mean, that's a pretty tried and true thing, I would say. It's completely reasonable just to want your guys that you have to play a lot. Like, I don't know, Dylan. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a little out of whack. I don't think you should punish these guys for not playing. It's ridiculous.
I mean, like, if you want to play one game and have 50 points and just stop playing, I'm not a fan of that. Not going to put you on the list.
That would be an incredible approach, though. Just the ultimate going out on top move.
I mean, I'm sure, as we just discussed, maybe Jalen Johnson would pull that move, but who knows?
Okay. So basically, I had kind of did the same thing. All my guys are in the top 15 for rookies in minutes. Like, I think that it's pretty reasonable to expect, the guys to play a whole lot, right? And I think the only guy actually that wasn't, I only had 2 guys outside of the top 10 in minutes on my teams. So I think that is a reasonable expectation. Let's go ahead and get into our teams. I mean, the top 3 is pretty simple. What's the order you had it in? Because the order you had it in is the guy who's first is obviously the rookie of the year. So what's the order you had the top 3 in for the rookies?
I went with Edwards, Halliburton, and Ball. So obviously LaMelo probably would have been number 1 if he played more. And Halliburton got hurt at a good time. Like, it was close enough to the end of the year. But man, that dude was closing minute. Like, he was playing closing lineups, like, in winning games. I'm just going to give him the nod over LaMelo. And again, if LaMelo played more, it would have been different. But that, and as we've discussed a ton already, I just think Edwards is going to by far be the best guy in this class. I mean, I just think he's going to be a superstar. Well, I shouldn't say by far, because I do think LaMelo has a high ceiling too, but I just believe in his game so much and his personality. And we talked about it pre-pod, like, these Wolves healthy are really good, and are not really good, but they're good. And Edwards has played a huge role in that. I mean, I don't know if I dropped this take on the pod yet, but what did he have, like 40 something a week or 2 ago?
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching highlights of that game. I'm like, man, like, I'm seeing a little bit of James Hart, just a little bit.
I think you said that on the pod. Yeah.
Like, with the step back shooting, and his passing probably will never be as good, but some of the ways he creates his shots, like, he's just he knows exactly what he wants to do with his body. And like, he's positioned himself perfectly to get these shots. And that's something that Harden didn't even really figure out until he got to Houston. And the fact that Edwards has already nailed that down now, I just think the kid could be like a top 10 player in the league very easily.
Yeah, I definitely have. Trust me, I'm high on Edwards too. Let me just go ahead and give my 3. So I had LaMelo 1, Edwards 2, Halliburton 3. And I know LaMelo didn't play all the games, right? He'll be at 51 at the end of the season because he's at 48 right now. And obviously Halliburton's stuck at 58 and Edwards will have played all 72. This is my thing, okay? LaMelo played this way all year. And I'm not punishing Edwards for it. Because obviously, you want the guys to play well. But you could make an argument that LaMelo played better for more of the season than Edwards did, even though Edwards played more. Like, you could, like, in the 41 games that he played, LaMelo was significantly better than Edwards. And a lot of Edwards' damage came while LaMelo was out. That's not Edwards' fault, right? But that's just the way it is. Like, I think Edwards has been hot in his last 40 games, which is great, but LaMelo was great in his first 41. Then he got hurt. He had a wrist injury. And I don't discount guys for wrist injuries because, bone injuries, because you can come back from a bone injury. And plus LaMelo's efficiency is just way better than Edwards, and he's a better passer. And you could make an argument that he's a better defender. I would probably say it's about even, but I think LaMelo just has been a better overall player. But if you honestly, Dylan, I would say Edwards probably has the higher ceiling. And I did not think I would be saying that when we did the first Timberwolves week.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Because, I mean, before I really sat down and watched Edwards, I didn't know much about him except from what I heard. And a lot of these scouts, I'm just so over listening to what other people have to say. Because these idiots screw it up every year. People focus on the wrong things. Oh, the kid likes to play video games. Find me one that doesn't, And he liked playing football. Oh, man, I'm not going to draft him number 1 because of that. It's just stupid. And I don't know, maybe some of it's smoke. trying to get, the Timberwolves to pass him up or something. I don't know, but it's just stuff you see every year, and I'm over it. But before as soon as I started watching him, I'm like, man, the first time I saw him make a whip pass with his left hand, I'm like, oh yeah, this kid's it right here. Because no one talked about his passing. All I heard was his shot creation. So I just think he's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think the football thing helps him more than it hurts him. He learned skills. He knows good footwork. This is my thing, Dylan. I think I've told you this before. I think kids should be playing other sports when they're younger. You learn other skills, and it can help you play basketball if basketball is what you want to pursue, right? Think about all the soccer players that have come over to the NBA and have thrived, right? Steve Nash famously loves soccer. Dirk Nowitzki loves soccer. Who else? I'm trying to think. Who's the guy I'm thinking? Jokic, right? He grew up playing soccer and he grew up playing handball. And obviously handball is a different sport, but growing up playing the different sports, and I think he played water polo. So you grow up playing these different sports, you learn different ways to move, and it helps you on the basketball court. That's why I didn't understand that. And I think this is going to be my argument going forward. Yeah, cool. He played football. Why does it matter that he didn't play basketball all year long, for the first 18 years of his life? Right? Why does it matter? Why not have him learn different skills? I don't think baseball applies to this conversation, right? Because you're not doing much in base. You're not learning new footwork and stuff, but football. Yeah, I mean, it's deadly, but you learn, if you're playing a skill position, you're learning skills to get open. You're learning how to cut, basically. And that's great for skills. The same with soccer. You're learning how to cut. You're learning how to move off the ball. Soccer is basically just a long game of dribbling and then finding people off cuts. I just don't understand why we're not teaching kids, why we're not emphasizing for kids to play different sports more.
Yeah, I'm digging up a book I have right by my side table called Range, David Epstein. And I haven't read all of it. I'll admit it was a little bit boring. I got bored of it. But I want to go back to it because a lot of people talk about it. The book is about how kids should spend their time doing different things. And the two examples he gives early on are Tiger Woods and Roger Federer. And Tiger Woods, we all know, was a guy that was just from basically the age of 2 was golfing. And obviously it turned out great for him. But Roger Federer was bouncing around to a bunch of different stuff, and he still got to the top of his sport too. So it's there's a kind of a debate about specialization or bouncing around. But I personally think because when you're a kid, you are the most you're a sponge. You can learn a ton of different things. I think when you're older, when you're our age, it's probably a good idea to start kind of honing in on one or two things, because again, there's only so much brain matter you have left to be able to soak things up. And when you're a kid, man, you can play 5 sports a year and retain a lot of that stuff. And, playing 2 or 3 sports in high school, I think is a great idea. Cause like you said, there's a ton of different things you're going to be able to take from that. And whatever you choose to do when you get older, whether it's sports or not, you can carry all that over and it's going to help you in some way. There's a lot of things that I look at now where I have skill sets that I had no idea would contribute to what I do now that do. And none of it's really even sports related, but sports, we all know there's so many lessons you can get from it. And just, moving your body in a different way and having to use your feet more, or maybe hand-eye coordination a little bit. There's a bunch of things you can pick up. And yeah, I 100% agree. I think playing football has helped him a lot. And I mean, look at some of our best athletes, man. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, these were guys that played both. They played professional sports at 2 levels. And Russell Wilson could go to the Texas Rangers tomorrow. They would love to have him. I don't know how good he still would be, but look how good he is at football. And I guarantee, I think he was a shortstop. Mm-hmm. You can see that in the way he moves, having to cover 50 feet of infield or whatever. You get pretty good at moving side to side. So yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, and we talked about this with the Wolves the other week, that being able to get through smaller holes and take contacts, all that stuff he's gotten from football.
Yeah, like, so let me just go through off the top of my head some of the great basketball players who I know played other sports, like at a late level, right? So Michael Jordan loved baseball,
Yes.
right? Picked up baseball off the blue and hit 200 in the minor leagues, which is one of the most impressive things he ever did. LeBron James was a renowned wide receiver. And Allen Iverson probably would have played in the NFL if he hadn't have gone to jail. Like, legitimately probably would have played in the NFL. But John Thompson, got him, and John Thompson was like, hey, you should play football. So he played football or basketball, and the rest is history. So, like, Allen Iverson and Edwards, I think, are good comps because, like, Iverson clearly loved football, but he loved basketball too. And he was great at both of them. And I think that it's just a bad argument to say, hey, kids should not widen their repertoire. There we go. Repertoire. That's easy for me to say. Dylan, you like, just a general life principle, being more well-rounded is never a bad thing. Having more life skills is never a bad thing. You should always try, like, in life, you should always try to be, well-skilled at many things as you can. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not very good with my hands. I know how to change a tire. I know how to do that. So I'm not saying, I'm out here like, building, like, laying brick or anything, but I think I know how to use my hands a little bit. So just being well-rounded is ultimately, a good thing in life, and it's a good thing in sports too.
Oh yeah. I mean, what I've noticed, if you really look at some of the most successful people in the world, they usually take like two different unique skill sets and take it into one thing. And like the great business owners, like, look at Elon Musk, for example. Elon Musk was not specialized in one area. He had a handful of different things that he was able to turn into a huge empire of what he's doing now with engineering and being able to run a business. Jeff Bezos, like, obviously all these guys have been able to take 2 or 3 skill sets and pour it into one area. And if they just learned how to be great businessmen, they would probably be middling CEOs somewhere. They'd be able to keep the bottom line in order, but they wouldn't be, changing the world or anything like that. And it's the same thing with athletes, man. Like, playing basketball for your whole life is going to help you become better at basketball, but you got to have a balance too. And sometimes for these guys, it's another sport, or hell, it's video games. Like, for the younger guys, like, everyone thinks this video game thing is a problem. I don't think so at all. I mean, there's a lot of skills I think you can gain from playing video games. And I mean, I think a lot of the criticism comes from the older people that never had video games, so they don't really understand the benefits of it.
Or all they had was Pong.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, that stuff doesn't take any skill. You just move the joystick a little bit. It's like, okay, Grandpa, go take your pill. Thank you. I think, I mean, there's a ton of hand-eye coordination involved in that, which can translate to anything. I mean, for God's sakes, I am not good at first-person shooters because my hand-eye coordination is just not that good. But there's a lot that can be taken out from it. And even if it's not video games, I mean, hell, like, look at someone like Rondo. Like, he is a very smart dude, right? And him being studious off the court, I think, is part of the reason he's still around. Like, he just has a very active mind, creative, and he's probably going to end up being a coach because of it. Will he be an asshole of a coach? Possibly. Very possible. But I think he'll be successful. And, like, those are just the examples. Like, you really need to be successful. You got to have a little bit of a diversified skill set.
And by the way, speaking of Rondo, he also was a quarterback in high school.
There you go.
So just to kind of bring the point full circle, I think we kind of touched on everything there. Let's just say a few quick. I mean, we talk about Halliburton every Kings podcast we've done. So if you want to hear our Halliburton thoughts, go check out the first Kings podcast in particular from early in the season where Dylan Hughes. I think Dylan Hughes, even when he was in college, was head over heels for Halliburton, and the heels have gone. Or the head has gone much more over the heels. I don't know which order I should use that expression in, but Halliburton is to come in and basically replace Bogdan Bogdanovic's production in Sacramento after the Kings lost Bogdanovich for nothing is probably the luckiest thing to happen to the Kings in 15 years.
Yeah, man, they actually made a good draft pick. It's shocking. And it's funny because the Knicks screwed it up and they ended up still being really good this year. But I mean, he's like the perfect secondary ball handler. Like, you don't want him as your lead point guard, really. He can lead the bench unit, but yeah, like he runs a pick and roll. He's good at getting to the rim, good finishing skills, good length on defense, good shooter. Like he's one of those good, not great guys, and those guys stick around. Look at Danny Green, George Hill. Those good, not great guys, they're able to fill a role for any team. And a lot of these teams just shoot for superstars all the time. And I think that's why a lot of the same teams end up in the lottery, including the Kings. Of course, the Kings have had their fair pick of superstars, and they always take the wrong one. I'm not going to name names here, but we know who I'm talking about. So, it was good for them. And Halliburton, I think, is going to be a big part of their future.
Yeah, I think that there are several teams picked ahead of the Kings that are kicking themselves right now, including the one that's the second seed in the West, by the way. I think that they really could have used Halliburton. Alas, let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the first team. Let's just go ahead and kind of do this in groups, okay? So who, for your fourth and fifth guys on your first team, Dylan, who did you have for your last two spots on your first team all-rookie?
Okay, this is a guy I almost skipped over because he wasn't drafted. Shantay was my fourth guy. And then Isaiah Stewart at 5. So let's just talk about Shantay, okay? Of all the insane Rocket stuff this year, he has been the only guy that's basically played the whole season. And he's -5. That is shocking for being the worst team in the West.
Yeah.
And like that's a dude that's just really good on both sides of the floor.
Yeah. He's been ridiculously good for the Rockets. Like that's a real diamond in the rough right there for the Rockets, is just finding Jae'Sean Tate, him exploding out of nowhere. Like, I can't believe how good he's been. He's 25 years old. He was on the Ohio State team with D'Angelo Russell. So I was watching the Rockets Wolves game during Wolves week. I was like, I texted and I saw them talking on the court. I'm like, wait a minute, they might have played together. So I texted our friend Caleb Lynn. I'm like, were Jae'Sean Tate and D'Angelo Russell on the same team? And they were. I was so blown away by that. Jae'Sean Tate was the third spot on my second team. I think that really after the first 3 spots, all the rest of these spots are kind of really interchangeable. I really like what he's done this year. The defense is incredible for a first-year player. So I'm not mad at you for having him on your first team. I think a lot of people will, and he's deserved it. He's not on mine, but I don't hate you for having him on yours. And what did you like about Stewart?
I mean, first of all, I don't have it up right now, but I think he's like leading this class in win shares, which is hilarious considering the Pistons have the second worst record in the league. But I mean, we talked about him with the Detroit pod, but he's just like almost the perfect modern day center, like without the shooting. I mean, like as far as like, cause there's 2 types of centers. There's like the really skilled ones that can handle and shoot. And then there's like the Clint Capellas that are just awesome next to a good ball handler. And we haven't even seen him that much with Killian Hayes, but I can imagine a lot of dunks in the future of Stewart because of Hayes. I mean, as we discussed, that dude will throw a lob to anyone. He would throw a lob to me and I'm not getting close to the rim, but he would throw it anyway. And Isaiah Stewart luckily can get close to the rim. So I just think, this wasn't a great class for big men as we'll see with our second team, I think, with Wiseman going 2 overall and just sucking really before getting hurt like that. It was kind of a fall off in talent after that. And I mean, Stewart was he a lottery pick or he was in that area?
He was the 16th pick.
Yeah.
So they like 2 picks outside of the lottery.
Yeah. But like, I mean, he was, I would say, close to a lottery talent, whether he was picked there or not. But I just like the way he plays. Like, we talk about centers a lot where, center defense is tough for young guys. I think he's been fine for his age and the fact that he's playing on a terrible team. But I just think he's been solid.
Yeah, I had him. So he was my first guy on the second team. So really, we had him basically one spot apart. I think that Stewart, I mean, that dude is just a monster. Like, a energy player can sometimes be used as an insult, but I don't think you're insulting Isaiah Stewart if you call him an energy player. He's all over the fucking place, and he's shooting 33% from three. Only 63 attempts, but he's really picked it up since they really started getting all in on the tank, right? Like, after they cut Blake Griffin in, they've been load managing Mason Plumlee for tanking purposes, obviously, but I love the way that he's been playing. It's honestly, like, again, I had him on my first team. I took him off. You'll see who I took him off for in a second, but I think that Isaiah Stewart has been really, like, Detroit's draft class in general, because I'm not going to ask you if Saddiq Bey is on your team yet, but Detroit's draft class in general was really out of the park this year. Like, they really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and I remember, I think a lot of people liked it before even watching them play. I mean, they got 3 draft picks, and, like, we were confused about their free agency, which turned out to be pretty good too. I don't know if Mason Plumlee was necessary, but obviously Jeremy Grant proved us wrong. But yeah, I mean, like, we talked about Saddiq Bey, Villanova. Like, that's all you need to say about him. And then Stewart, didn't watch him much, but, like, I liked the tape. And Killian Hayes, there's a Pistons fan I follow on Twitter. He's been talking about Killian Hayes for, like, years, it feels like. So I was really happy for him when I saw that they got him, because I knew he was going to be hyped about it. And, like, everything I've seen, I think the kid's going to be really good. I mean, we discussed recently he's got, like, a Rubio floor, which is pretty damn good. Rubio's been around a long time, but I think he's going to be even better than that. So I'm excited about him for sure, and I'm excited about their whole class.
Yeah, if Killian Hayes had played all year, he probably would have made my all-rookie team, but he did not. Unfortunately, he's only going to play like 23 or 24 games, I think. So let me go ahead and give my fourth and fifth guys, and I know one of these guys has to be on your second team at least, if not both of them. My fourth guy was Desmond Bane. I love how he's been playing in Memphis. I think the 44% from three, he's playing meaningful minutes on a playoff contender. Like, he is, I think, the second 2-guard on the depth chart now. He plays a good amount a game for being, a rookie and being on a team with the fact that he can stand out on a team with that much guard talent is really, like, he's playing how many per game? 22 a game on an actual playoff team, and he's shooting 44% from three. I think that means something, like the fact that he's actually helping a team win games, and his defense is good. I love everything about Desmond Bane. I would be shocked if he's not on your rookie team. And then my other guy was Patrick Williams, the paw. I really love the way he was played in Chicago. The shot isn't really all the way there yet, but for a rookie, he's playing great. Actually, no, I'm wrong. He's shooting 38% from three. Never mind. 38% from three, 9 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 28 minutes a game. So I think that Patrick Williams, he's really helped the Bulls win a lot this year. I think he's been great. Let's talk about Bane first. Did you have Bane on your team?
Yeah, he's the first guy on my second team. I was going back and forth between him and Tate. I went with Tate just because, as good as Bane has been, he's had such better teammates and situation.
That's fair.
And, like, the numbers are gonna reflect that, But every time I watch Tate, that dude is like, he can be an off-ball guy, he can be an on-ball guy, he can defend. Like, he's just making plays everywhere. And the fact that he has stuck it out through this whole Rocket situation, and, as a guy that had to play overseas after college for 4 years, I mean, I'm sure he's happy to just be here. But, that was a guy that's, with all this turmoil, has stuck it out and played well. So I gave him the nod for that reason. But yeah, Bane is really good. And, we love our Grizzlies over here. And he's becoming a part of it because he's just a great off-ball, threat. And when you have someone like Ja, like, he's going to attract a ton of attention. And having Jaren back too, I just can't believe Jaren, man. Like, he just came right out of the gate and is just the same dude, and being able to play off those two guys, he's been great. And like, I won't say exactly what they needed, because as we've mentioned, they need a little bit more of pull-up threat. But as far as a bench shooter and defense guy, he's been great.
Yeah, he's played, 65 games for a rookie, 22 minutes a game, and he's been consistent all year. He started off the year, I think, shooting like 55% from three or something like that. Like the first month of the season, I'm pretty sure him and Gorgie Jang were alternating with the NBA three-point percentage lead. He's obviously not there anymore, but 44% on 4 attempts a game as a rookie, that's pretty good. Just to be able to come in and just to be able to knock in points off the bench. He started 16 games too. So, it's not like he hasn't, played. I would like to see, I think, if they get Brooks out of there, I would like to think that he's going to be closing games for them next year, just because of the defense and the 3-point shooting and the spacing he provides. But I think he's part of Memphis's very intriguing future, because I'm not going to say he's untouchable, but if you don't have to trade Desmond Bane, I wouldn't personally. I think he's going to help any team that he's on win games. And I think that's an admirable quality, especially for a rookie. So that's why he was my fourth guy. Did you have Patrick Williams on your team?
Yes, I have him on my second team as well. This second team is so, like, as you mentioned, it's like it doesn't really matter what order they're in. I'm trying to think, because I didn't actually list them in order. I just have them like kind of spaced out. I would probably have him as the third guy on my second team. Same reasons as you. Like, again, this is another guy that stuck it out the whole year. The Bulls have a little bit of a roller coaster with their top two guys being out for, some time. But yeah, just awesome on both ends of the floor. I think he's just a modern four, like he's a guy that can shoot a little bit. He's good inside, good defender. Like he's going to be really solid. And I think as his offense even develops a little bit more, I think he's just going to turn out to be a overall stud on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that they definitely don't regret taking Halliburton, right? Like they could definitely use a point guard, but you always take the wing of the wing with high potential over the point guard with a high floor, right? Like it's an obvious choice. And I think that right now Halliburton's a better player, but in 2 years, I could easily see Patrick Williams being a better player. He's a monster, like a lot of potential. I think that really, really just very skilled already, like very good mover off the ball. And I think that I think Patrick Williams is going to be a difference maker in Chicago for years to come.
Yeah, like I kind of see him as like a Harrison Barnes, Rudy Gay type of guy with maybe a little bit more upside. But as a floor, that's great. Like a pull-up shooter that can hit open shots and defend. He's probably never going to be like the second best player on a really good team, but he's going to be a great compliment to like 1 or 2 stars for sure.
I agreed. Like they honestly, with a point guard, they might be in the play-in right now. Like I think think about him if he was on this Miami team right now, and we keep trying to shove fours into that team, but he's probably not exactly what they need, but I think he would look really good there. He would approximate most of what they need. He wouldn't fill the Jay Crowder hole. I just try to combine those 2 words. He wouldn't fill that hole perfectly, but he'd do a damn good job, making sure that it would be a pretty good fit, pretty seamless fit, I would say, trying to fill the Jay Crowder hole. I think the Bulls, honestly, Kardashev hit a home run here. Like we were talking, we were doing the Bulls pod last week and we were talking about, how badly they, messed up their previous drafts with the 2021. I don't think anyone's going to say that they messed up picking Patrick Williams at 4. I think they made the exact perfect pick. I think we're good to move on to our second team. And we've already talked each about 2 of our second team guys. So we only have 3 guys left. Dylan, who's the next guy you have on your second team that we have not talked about yet?
Saddiq Bey.
I had him as well, so it's perfect. We could it's literally knocking out two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
What have you liked from Saddiq Bey?
I think he was like a notch below like the Tate Bane range for me, just because he wasn't great to start the year. I was kind of worried about him. He was just missing open shots. I was like, man, this is like what you're supposed to do. But he's really turned it on, and he's had some insane games. Like there was a game, I think he hit like 7 threes in a quarter, or maybe it was a half, but like he has that kind of skill set where you leave him open, it's over. And just looking at that Detroit team as a whole, he is just a great fit with Hayes and like Grant. Who knows how long Grant's going to be there, but like he, just like Desmond Bane, I think he's going to be a great complement to like good shooting and passing. And I mean, we've already seen it this year. And again, he's an NBA ready type of guy that's just going to fill his role perfectly. And that's what we've seen from him this year.
And this is the lowest. I think this is the lowest on the list an NBA player of the week will ever be. He won NBA player of the week that week, Dylan Hughes, because the Pistons went 3-0.
I mean, like seriously, 7 threes in a quarter. Like that is just, I feel like there was someone else that did it too. Like it's not, with the NBA shooting going so crazy, it's not like insane, but it's pretty damn crazy to be able to hit, even if it's just a quarter. I mean, 7 threes in a game is a lot, but being able to knock down threes at that rate it's very, very few people can do it.
I think what you're talking about, I think that was in a quarter, or not in a quarter. I think that was for the whole game. I think he went 7 for 7 for the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. He had a burst in one quarter. It may not have been 7, but it was like 3 or 4 back to back to back type of deal. And he was getting 2s. Like he was just dominating. And as a rookie to do that, not even like a first overall pick, that's pretty impressive.
So I pulled up the quarter in question. So he had 14 points in the second quarter, played all 12 minutes, 4 of 5 from the field, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line, and 3 of 3 from the foul line. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't think he can be like, he's not going to be some guy who's going to come in and score 20 points a game, right? But he can get you 14 and make 4 3, like a couple threes a game and shoot 39% in the process. Like, I would say like forward Danny Green, right? Except a lot more consistent. I don't want to say Mikal Bridges.
That's like what Marcus Morris is doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Morris is making 17 a year. He's making a lot, maybe it's even more than that. He's making a lot of money to do that. And he's going to be around for a long time.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be around for a long time. Like Saddiq Bey, I think they got a steal because when they're ready to win, he's going to contribute. And he's contributing now, even when they're not ready to win. So I think that's a win-win for them. So we already talked about Isaiah Stewart. We already talked about Tate. We already talked about Desmond Bane and Patrick Williams. Who's the next guy you have on your list? We're already almost done with the all-rookie team. This is going by a lot faster than it did when we did last year's all-rookie pod.
So this is a guy I'm wondering if you even have on the list. Peyton Pritchard.
I have him as well.
Okay. I mean, listen, man. I drop this comp all the time. He's TJ Mcconnell that can shoot. I don't think people understand how good of a player that is. Like as a backup point guard, as much as we've shit on the Celtics this year and as much as they've had issues, Peyton Pritchard's been there and he's kept them afloat a lot of points. And they've had a lot of point guard issues. Marcus Smart was hurt. Kemba Walker has been up and down all year, and he's been hurt. Peyton Pritchard's been there, man, and he's been good. And, like, this was a guy a lot of people doubted, including me, because he was like a small dude from the Northwest. There's a lot of those guys every year that just don't work out. But Peyton Pritchard, he's like that typical Celtics guy that kind of just – has a chip on his shoulder and wants to come out and prove himself. And I've just really enjoyed watching him this year.
Yeah. He's been there. I think when we did the first Celtics pod, I think I said he was the 4th best player on the team. And he obviously didn't stay that way because they improved a lot over the course of the season, but he has been incredibly consistent for a rookie from outside. Like he's at 41% from 3. as like, and it's perfect because he doesn't need to play a whole lot to have a big impact, but he just does everything on the floor. He plays defense really well. He shoots really well. He can handle, he can run a pick and roll, right? Like, I don't think I want him running a lot of pick and rolls, but he can run it, right? I think that he is the perfect role player. And honestly, I know we gave them a lot of flack for the 2019 draft, Dylan, last week. And we talked about last week how much we loved Aaron Nesmith too. And honestly, if Aaron Nesmith had played the whole year, he probably would have been on my list. Like, he probably would have been on the all rookie team because he was that good from what I saw. But Nesmith, I think, just a really home run pick by Danny Ainge. And I don't use those words lightly because he did trade away my fourth guy on the first team. He did trade that guy away. So, I do have some room to judge old Danny here, but I think that all in all, 2020 draft for Danny Ainge, I think is going to go down in history as a good one.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say he got lucky, but he pulled off a draft that he needed, and I still don't think it was as good as it could have been. But getting Pritchard at that point was huge, and those late first, early second type of guys are. Sometimes that can swing like a championship run. I mean, look at what Pascal Siakam did for Toronto, like that's what, and you don't get those guys every year, but I mean, it seems like there's always one that comes between 25 and 40 that ends up sticking around and making a huge impact. We talked about Draymond last week, and again, Draymond's not going to come around every year, but those type of guys can swing stuff. And even if you can just get a rotation guy at that point, I mean, that's huge, and that's exactly what Pritchard's been. And moving forward, I don't know. I think the Celtics might have a lot of changes to make, and Pritchard's probably going to stick around, though.
Oh, yeah. Pritchard, I still wish they just cut Semi Ojeleye and just played Desmond Bane. I really wish they did that. But, I mean, all we can do is we can't focus on the past, to use another life saying. So we got to, just focus on what Danny Ainge actually did. And while it wasn't great, it's working out pretty well for them, I'd say. Like, right now, they're having a facsimile of a good 7-man rotation. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably know by now that Jaylen Brown had surgery and he's going to miss the rest of the season. It's a big bummer, but I mean, Dylan, I still think in the play-in game, Nesmith and Pritchard, I think they can make a big impact and swing a game against Charlotte or Washington.
Yeah. And, having Jason Tatum's going to help with that. But, I agree. And I really hope we get to see Peyton Pritchard versus Russell Westbrook. That's the matchup I'm dying for right there.
Oh, God. I love Pritchard, but I think Westbrook actually legitimately might just run him over.
Could we see the first 30-30-30 triple-double?
Oh, God, possibly. I would love to see it. I think we're good. I think that means we only have one spot left. This might be where we might have some divergence, but I'll just go ahead and go first. My last guy is Jaden McDaniels.
Oh,
did you not? It sounds like you did not have Jaden McDaniels. So
I was close, but I went with quickly.
I don't think that either of those are bad picks. Let me talk about Jaden McDaniels real quick, and we'll talk about McDaniels real quick, then we'll talk about quickly, because I like quickly too. I was a tough snub for me, I'll say, but I think Jaden McDaniels, the way he's really altered the Timberwolves defense, and he's shooting like 38% from three. Like, I mean, he's not averaging a whole lot of points, but the overall impact that McDaniels is having, I just don't think it can be ignored for the Timberwolves. Like, he's legitimately, I know that they haven't turned the season around because they're still trash because of what they did under Saunders, but Finch has really unlocked him, and they've really become, Dylan, he's really an impact player for the Timberwolves.
It's funny. I'm putting together my all defense team, and Jaden McDaniels is in the mix already. Like,
see?
I was looking up some stats, and I saw as we talk about every year, like, grading defense is just tough because the stats get wonky, and like the defensive rating stuff is just tough because there's other guys on the floor, and there you could go off forever about it. But I found a stat which is just simple. It's defensive field goal percentage. It's like the field goal percentage of the guy that you're guarding, what he's scoring. And when you look at the numbers, they're pretty close. Like, you're going to have a lot of centers at the top or the bottom, I guess, giving up like the really good guys are giving up around 50% field goal percentage, centers, especially because they're defending the rim. Like those guys, I think the number ends up translating pretty well. And Jaden McDaniels is like in that territory, and he's more of a perimeter guy. Like he's giving up a pretty low field goal percentage. And as a rookie, that is like shocking to be able to do this well, this quick. And he's not necessarily surrounded by a bunch of great defenders either. So he's doing a lot of the load carry. And I think he's going to be an all defense guy for his entire career. Like it's going to get tough next year. I think when Isaac comes back, it's going to get tough to shove all these guys into two teams, because there's a lot of defensive talent, and the more rookies come in the league, it just keeps filling up.
Well, and if the Blazers have a normal defense next year, Covington's also going to get a spot back too. So
exactly.
Covington, just real quick, I hate that I can't give Covington an all defense spot because the Blazers defense has been that bad, because his defense is still just so remarkable. Like, I know he can't really stop anyone on ball, but man, his off-ball defense is just such a huge impact for a team. I wish I could put him on my all-defense team. I can't in good conscience. Emmanuel Quickley. Why did you put Emmanuel Quickley as your last spot?
So, listen, the numbers aren't fantastic. Like, I'm a big efficiency guy. He's shooting like 40% from the field. He's not shooting great at the rim. He's shooting 40% from 3, which is nice. But listen, this is a Tibbs error, okay? We talk about Elfrid Payton all the time. And I watched the Knicks play the Lakers last night, and Elfrid Payton threw a lob that was just never going to go down. I got so upset. I'm like, get this fucker off the court. I don't ever want to see him play again. He sucks. Okay. Then a little bit later, he drives to the rim, misses the layup. It's like, what are we doing? And yet this guy wants to make a burner account tweeting that he needs more minutes. Just probably my least favorite player in the league at this point. I mean,
wow.
Just axe him. Okay. Send him to Spain or some shit. We're done with him here. But, and obviously the Derrick Rose reemergence, that's very understandable. Like, I understand giving him minutes over quickly, but Peyton, he needs more minutes. And like, you look at the game log, like he's been inactive 3 games in a row. The game before that, he's got 18 points on 8 shots. Like the kid can score. And I don't know if he's ever going to be a great like distributor. He has his games, but he's like a score first guy. But I mean, on that team with Randall and Barrett doing most of the handling anyway, I think he's the perfect complement to those guys. And he can like attack a closeout. We know the floater's good. The number isn't great on the floaters, but we know he can hit them. So I actually just saw that 31% of his shots are basically floaters. They come in the short mid range, which I just think is funny. 31%. But I mean, I just think he's got a bright future, and hopefully Tibbs next year at least starts to recognize that.
So I have my snubs listed, and we'll run through those at the end of those. Quickly is actually my second snub. I had one guy ahead of him, and you'll understand why I had the guy ahead of him in front of Quickly. But I can't disagree with having Quickly on the team. Like, I think he's been that good this year. I mean, I agree. The fact that he's not starting is absolutely atrocious. And I'm assuming once he's in his second year, Tibbs will trust him more. This is just a Tibbs thing. It's remarkable that he's honestly played 61 games at all. If I'm being honest with you, knowing Tibbs. But they need, like, honestly, they really need his scoring. They really need his spacing in the starting unit, because I'm not going to go as far as, I'm not going to send Elfrid Payton to Spain. I'm not going that far, right? Even though if you're sending a player somewhere, Spain isn't a bad place to send them. I think he should be starting. I don't understand why he's not. Point guard defense has never really mattered. And Tibbs, when he started Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was never a great defender in Chicago. He started CJ Watson. He started John Lucas III, right? He's made a living off of starting bad point guards on defense, right? And they make up for it, especially if they get Robinson back next year. I don't know what his status is. I think the Knicks are in a really good position with Quickly to make some noise in the future.
Yeah, me too. And I'm interested to see. We just had a pre-pod discussion about the draft, and like they've got 2 picks in the 20s that this is a deep draft. And if they can hit both of those guys, their rotation next year is going to be pretty decent. Because I think Barrett has made good enough strides this year where like he's not going to really sink them anymore. He will at times, but Randall obviously has figured his game out, and the guys around them are really good compliments. Like I think Bullock has been awesome next to those 2 guys as the floor spacer. And as I mentioned, Rose has been really good lately. So, it's a shame that they were bad in the draft for so many years where, hey, I saw Ntilikina did play last night. So that's something. And then, obviously Toppin has been whatever. But Kevin Knox, there's just a lot of misses in there, and that it's compounded into them not making the playoffs for 9 years now. But I think they're turning the page finally. Shout out to Leon Rose, and hopefully they continue to add good pieces.
Yeah, I don't know if you shouted out Nerlens Noel too, but Nerlens Noel's having a career year in New York.
He is.
Filling in for Mitchell Robinson, which that injury sucked. I hated that injury. I really want Robinson to be healthy because I really love the way he plays. But Nerlens Noel, honestly, Dylan, it's crazy, but Nerlens Noel, all defense candidate at center. He's not going to make it, but like real deep cut. But like, I don't think he's been really good in New York, like really, really good. He's not going to make it, but that defense hasn't fallen out from losing Mitchell Robinson at all. And that's all because of Nerlens Noel. So I wanted to shout him out. Anything else on quickly before we move on? Because I really have nothing to say that you didn't add in that last little bit.
No, just Tibbs needs to figure his things out. And yes, send Peyton to Spain. I'm sticking with that.
Good for you, Dylan. I'm proud of you for sticking with your convictions. My snubs. Okay. I don't know if you prepared a snubs list, but I think that my snubs list will be all encompassing. So you obviously snubbed Jaden McDaniels. How dare you? Some other guys we snubbed. Isaac Okoro. Like, he's been really good on defense for them. And, he had a 35-point game a couple of weeks ago, I think, against the Suns. I think he had like a 35-point game against the Suns, but his shooting really isn't there yet for me. And I mean, the Cavs have just been god awful, even with him playing all the games. So it has to count for something. I obviously snubbed Quickly. I think that he's really good, and I'm not mad at Dylan at all for having him on the list. I think that's completely reasonable. You could take Pritchard off the list and put you could take Pritchard and McDaniels off the list for me and replace them with Quickly and Okoro, and I wouldn't be mad at you, right? Like I think those 12 guys probably are the most deserving rookies. Then let's get to the other ones. Facu Campazzo, he might make the all-rookie team. He's been, he's the last guard standing in Denver, basically. All their guys are getting hurt before the playoffs, so that's fun. He's been playing really well. And then the rest of these guys aren't like real serious candidates, but I wanted to shout him out. Teo Maladan, he's been like, he hasn't been great in Oklahoma City, but I think the fact that his rookie year could have gone a lot worse and it hasn't, I think that's saying something. He was thrown in one of the worst possible situations after they sat down SGA and Horford. So I think he's been doing well. Chuma Okeke, if he played more games, he probably would have been on my team. I think he's been really good. Xavier Tillman, I think that he's solid, but solid really isn't enough to make this list, unfortunately. Devin Vassell and Tyrese Maxey are my last 2 guys. They both just haven't played enough. Anything you want to add on any of those guys before we finish up this pod, Dylan?
Nope, you got it, man. But 2 Grizzlies mentioned today. Are you shocked?
No, I mean, the over-under was honestly 5. So we are doing the Grizzlies tomorrow, so that'll be a better outlet for that. Dylan, we wrapped up. I think this is our shortest pod in a while. From one young soul to another. I'm going to save my threat for the big show tomorrow. I'm going to make sure the last one of the regular season is a grand one. But I'll just repeat for this one. I'll repeat the one from last week. Okay. If you don't buy from one young soul to another, I'm going to go to your house. I'm going to glue the back of your mailbox shut. I'm going to fill it with rocks. you're not gonna get any mail. You're just gonna have rocks in your mailbox. Dylan Hughes appreciated that threat last week. Does it hit the same this week?
It's good, man, but I still think the Monopoly threat was I don't think you can top that one.
Oh, now I gotta try to top it. So I'll actually prepare something tomorrow. All these are off the dome. Okay, I just want you to know that.
That's respectable.
All of these are off the dome. So make sure you go buy from one young soul to another. It's $7.50, man, for a physical copy of it. I gotta get that when I get my tax return. I'm getting from one young soul to another. I've already bought the ebook, so I'm not supporting my friend. I'll support him twice. Let's see, Divine Rhyme. So this week, you guys, this pod is actually going to come out before Divine Rhyme. This Divine Rhyme will probably be out this Friday. What are you guys doing for this week for Divine Rhyme?
So we're continuing Schoolboy Q, Oxymoron, Blank Face, 2 just outstanding albums, which is really impressive for it being his second and third album. Just awesome stuff. And me and Will have been really excited about it. So we're gonna have a great show.
And also, we are going to be getting a Divine Rhyme on the off season, right? Correct? Am I correct in this assumption?
We're gonna wait until after we finish Schoolboy Q. So we're gonna do Crash Talk next week. You know, these albums are better digested with time. So we're gonna give ourselves a week or two for the off season, and then we're gonna be able to get our thoughts out on that.
I respect that thought process. Just give yourself time to digest it and sit with it. Sit with it.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the off season. I'm very hyped for it. Power Hour tomorrow, Dylan. I think tomorrow might be our longest one, and it's always long because we're talking about your Heat, my Raptors, and our Grizzlies.
Yes, our baby, the Grizzlies, that we have birthed on our own.
That's right.
We are the who's the mother and who's the father. That's what we need to figure out.
You're definitely the father. The father. I think that's
fair. It's an equal share though. That's the important part.
That's right.
So it's going to be great. The Grizzlies they've like kind of exploded since the last time we talked about them, I would say. I mean, they're still in the play-in tournament, so they haven't been like incredibly good. But I mean, the West is tough, man. Like getting in that top 6 is really tough. So they've been good this year, and it's tough. Like who do we root for? There's I don't want to see Steph Curry lose, right? I mean, I guess we can just say fuck the Spurs, and that would solve all the problems. But there's probably going to be one team that, because the Lakers are in there too. So one of those teams that we like is going to have to fall out.
Yeah. Oh, it's so tough, man. I pulled up the standings by date. Let me check the Southeastern Division, or the Western Conference, excuse me. So on the All-Star break, because remember, Memphis missed a lot of games in the first half of the season, so they backloaded their schedule is the crazy part. So they were 16-16 at the All-Star break, and now they're 36-33. So, I mean, they've been pretty consistent all year. I mean, I love them. You know what I mean? They had 2 rough losses earlier this week, but they trying to reintegrate Jaren Jackson after all this time. I don't blame them. It's just been a weird year for everybody, but I mean, Dylan, that one's going to be a great pod. I still got to catch up on some games, but that shouldn't take me too long because especially I haven't watched Grizzlies Raptors yet. So that'll knock out 2 birds with one stone. You were on the Circle City Cinema this week with Zach Griffith. Tell us how that went. Because I haven't listened yet, because I haven't watched Parasite yet, even though I wanted to. Tell us how that went.
Oh man, it was great. I was excited about that one. I mean, obviously, when you can discuss movies with the king of movies, it's a great time. But Parasite is just such an awesome movie, and we both had a good time talking about just a crazy movie, man. That's the only way you can describe it, and it was a really fun time.
I can't wait to listen to it. I'm putting it off, so I haven't listened to it yet because it's not like, oh, this is whack, I don't want to listen to this. I am not listening to it until I watch the movie. So you can understand that, I'm sure. They also next week they're gonna be doing the Road to F9 Fast 5 with Bryce and JD. I believe that'll be next week. Bryce and I will be getting together for a Best Picture draft from 1990 to 2020. Then at some point Boys in the Hood 30th anniversary with JD and his brother Jamal. Last week, I filled in on the battleground for JD. We talked about the NFL draft, Rodgers, and the Nuggets and the Lakers. And obviously the Lakers, LeBron James is scheduled to come back on Saturday against your Pacers. Dylan, I mean, let's face it. The Lakers are screwed. They should be, they should be terrified, Dylan Hughes.
Dude, I don't know what. I am so lost on where the Lakers are going to end up, because it's like you have to bet on LeBron being healthy, right? But I don't know. Like, we knew at some point in his career he was going to start to fall apart, and I don't know if this is it or not. That's the thing. It could just be kind of a bad luck year, not a lot of rest before. But man, it's tough. And like, they're still really good without him. Like AD, Dennis Schroeder, Drummond hasn't been that good, but like they have a good enough team where they could like probably get through the first round. But when you got to face Utah or Phoenix, it's tough. So I feel like I'm going to end up missing on that in one way or the other. I'm either going to believe in them and they're going to lose, or I'm going to say they're going to suck and then it's going to be like last year all over again. So I'm kind of worried about that one.
And that's going to be the last time we talk about the Lakers on the Power Hour until we absolutely have to, folks. Because we have not talked about them since Lakers week, I think in February. But I mean, they've had such a weird year. I don't blame us for not checking in on them. And then my last plug, the last pod that I have to plug, Linsanity. So Caleb and JD did a what we like and what we don't like earlier this week. And in the playoffs, JD is going to be joining Caleb every week to break down the NBA playoffs. So we're going to have 3 NBA pods going a week, folks. Power Hour will be coming at you once a week, and then Linsanity will be coming at you twice a week. That's going to be absolutely ridiculous NBA coverage you're going to be getting from us. And then you'll be having a battleground every 2 weeks as well. Dylan Hughes will be on the battleground at some point. So, I mean, folks, you are just getting bombarded with content from us. And then next week, Caleb and Bryce and Zach will be discussing the play-in games. They'll be previewing the play-in games because those will be set in stone by then. Let's give a little bit of NBA news at the end. Breaking news during the pod: Dwayne Casey signed a contract extension with the Pistons. Dylan Hughes, are you surprised that Dwayne Casey did not get fired by the Pistons?
No, man. This team they are reloading, not rebuilding. Okay. This is a quick little step back. They're going to get hopefully a top 3 pick, get one of those top guys. I'm just trying to think who I want them to get the most, because I think any of those guys would be fine. Like, I think Suggs you could play him with another point guard. So if he went to OKC, I think it'd be great. If he went to Detroit, I think it'd be great. I think he would be fine anywhere. Mobley, we said he can probably come in as a 4. He could play next to Stewart and start to figure defense out at this level, be good. Obviously, Cade probably has the highest ceiling out of everyone. So, man, give Dwayne the keys, man, and maybe he can avenge or get some revenge on Toronto for cutting bait and build this team into a superpower.
I mean, let's be real here. I love Nick Nurse, but are we telling ourselves that they wouldn't have won that championship with that same team and Dwayne Casey? I mean, Nick Nurse was already there. He was the offensive coordinator, basically. I just struggle to believe that they wouldn't have won that championship with Dwayne Casey as the coach.
Yeah, I think it was when the Buccaneers fired Tony Dungy and they won the next year.
With John Gruden?
I think it was like that. I mean, the team was good, really good. I don't think the coach was a difference maker.
I would tend to agree. I think we're done. I think I've plugged everything I need to plug. Facts and stats of JD Hall. The episode with Dylan Hughes should be coming out any day. I think it might already be out. I'll have to double check, but I'll check with JD and I'll put it on the plug doc. But Dylan Hughes, any last words of wisdom? Do you want to say fuck meteorologist again before we sign off for the night?
You know what? I've gotten that out of my system. The weather has been I haven't paid attention to the meteorologist, so I don't know. The weather has been what it is. the predictions haven't spoiled anything, and I think that's it's better that way.
Beautiful way to end it. Dylan Hughes, once again, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.